What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the day was finally here with Valve taking orders for the Steam controller, and it's gone. Like, it sold out very quick. Valve and their website for the controller got hammered. And of course, Scalpers swooped in to take advantage of the situation, but not before gamers were ready to push back in their own way. And we'll go over that, as well as maybe an update here for the Steam machine here today. Also, we are going to be talking about GTA 6 because there's a new interview with Strauss Zelnick, and it seems like the stakes really are that high. And we have some new information that's going around for the PlayStation 6, specifically some features for the system, as well as Sony's plans, yes, for cross-generation support. Shocking, I know. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Call of Duty 2026, which we're expecting to be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, as there was a rumor going around that the PlayStation 4 was seeing playtests for this game, which then, of course, implies the idea of a PlayStation 4 version of the game 13 years after the PS4 came out. Well, we have Call of Duty in their official account responding to this, we can see, where they say, not sure where this one started, but it's not true. The next Call of Duty is not being developed for PS4. Okay, so to me, that's good news, because it's like, guys, we got to move on from this game eventually, and we're already getting close to where the PS4 is. It's having a hard time running the newest Call of Duty. It's running off of a mechanical drive. At this time, like, everything has moved over to a solid state drive of some kind there. And even that would even include the Switch too. Let's say if that does get the Call of Duty 2026 or a version of Call of Duty this year. So eventually, yes, you do have to leave it behind, because I don't know if they want to develop for PS4, PS5, and PS6 if we are indeed seeing the next generation system from Sony come out in 2027. So almost breathe a sigh of relief there, I guess. So the PS4, hey, it put up a valiant effort, a valiant fight to make it to year 13, but it seems like in this case, Activision will be moving on from it, at least according to their official statement today. Also, we got some news around 007 First Light. Remember, that is coming out later on this month, and I'm very excited for it. I think it looks pretty good, and everything we've seen so far in the previews were really high on this game. Now, previews tend to be high on a lot of different games, but this one, again, it seems to have a pretty good, I'd say, attention detail and level of quality that you'd want out of a new James Bond game. But there was discussion around the game length for it, and you can see this is over on Insider Gaming, saying according to YouTuber Joraptor, 007 First Light's campaign will last for roughly 20 hours or so, at least for the average gamer. And that brought up the question around how long does a game have to be if it is full price, like $70. What do you expect in terms of the runtime? Because I don't necessarily think you can say a 50-hour game is absolutely better than a 20-hour game, because the 50-hour game can, of course, be padded out, and it's very redundant at times based on things you're doing, just to make sure you get to an arbitrary number, maybe, that they have set out ahead of, like, production for the game. Like, this is going to be a 50-hour game no matter what. How do we do that? I'd prefer a very concise and fun and snappy 20-hour game over that. So we still don't necessarily know the contents of the 20 hours for the game, but when I see that, I am almost like, oh, good, because I don't need all this extra stuff on top just for the sake of getting to some inflated hour count for a game. If it's 20 hours and it's really good, to me, that is worth the money then. Oh, and it looks like we have another LEGO console to look forward to this summer, and you can see. Now, this was over on Jay's Brick blog, and it's a Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, I guess, depending on where you are in the world. And okay, so this is set up as a 479 piece build, and it's the Genesis at $40, and right now it'll be launching, according to the blog, June 1st. So $40, I mean, I look at it, it doesn't seem super detailed in terms of, I mean, they're working within what, a 479 brick allowance here for it, so it's not going to be incredibly detailed and stuff necessarily. I'm like looking at the controllers, specifically like the D-pad, for example, it's just one Lego piece that they have, and it almost looks like a sticker on top of it. Whereas if you built out like the Game Boy, it's pretty intricate the way they set all of that up. But still, I don't mind necessarily the lower price and necessarily the lower level of detail there, because it is just kind of a fun, novel thing to build and then put up on a shelf somewhere. So SEGA fans who also like Legos, keep an eye out for this one when it launches in the summer. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Steam controller that was revealed last week, fully with the price point and the day that Valve would start taking orders. So the idea here is you would log into the website, and from there you can drop one controller, though some people were saying they were getting multiple controllers here, but it was $100 and then they would start shipping these things out, right? So reviews were very positive on the controller, and I am interested in picking one up, but I'm also kind of thinking that the Steam machine, which is what I'm very interested in right now, will have a bundle where you're getting a Steam controller anyway. So I did have to stop and think, how many Steam controllers do I actually need? So I'm going to see where we are with the Steam machine and the Steam controller bundle and try to just like two birds, one stone kind of there, just in a single order. But kind of as expected, about 30 minutes after they went up for order, they were gone, sold out. If you look on the website now, just that button is just out of stock. And kind of used to that button now with all the Steam Deck stuff that's been happening, but $100 Steam controller did very, very well. A lot of demand on this, and wouldn't you know it, the scalpers took notice and they were prepared. And now if you go on eBay, this is wild stuff. I was scrolling through and people were like, hey, man, the scalpers are all over. It was all over like the Steam subreddit about how there were scalpers taking advantage of this situation with $250 Steam controllers. And I went and looked, and again, you got to look under sold listings because people can just list stuff for whatever. But if you go to sold listings, people are buying it for $200 or more. I saw one order for $250 for a Steam controller, which is, I mean, that's just madness. A $250 Steam controller. Like, there was already discussion around the $100 price point on the Steam controller. And I think it's fine to pay a little more for a controller that should last you a while, especially with the magnetic or TMR thumbsticks. That should, of course, mitigate any kind of issues around joystick drift. So when I see that, I go, okay, this is one that should last you several years. $100, but like $250, that might be pushing it. So what do we get? Well, over on their subreddit, and this was going crazy too, people were posting that you can report these different things. So you can report any of the different listings for the orders, but it was then also removed and then posted again and then removed again on the Reddit. So people are trying to just let everyone know, hey, you can report this and eBay will take it down. But I don't actually think that's the case, because the way it works with eBay is it has to be outside of a certain window of like 30 days or 60 days. So if you say have an order for something, but it's not out for 4 months, you can't actually list that pre-order. But in the case of the Steam controller, Valve's shipping this thing out in a few days. So that would actually fit within the window that eBay has set up for, yes, pre-sellers essentially for something like this. And again, you're seeing the effect on the market right now where people are going crazy buying up the Steam controller at these inflated rates. So for me, I look at this and go, well, Valve, I think is clearly going to be restocking the Steam controller when the Steam machine and potentially when the Steam frame goes up for sale, because the Steam controller does have some compatibility with the Steam frame where it has like an IR detection in there, so it can be used for that as well. So I think they'll want to stock both of those together, as there will be, according to them, a bundle with the Steam frame. So the Steam machine, Steam controller, and then the Steam frame off to the side. So they will want to have extra Steam controllers available for that bundle, but also just to sell in case maybe you buy one and then realize, oh, I do actually want that Steam controller. Now, the marketplace clearly is saying they want more Steam controllers, and Valve knowing this, maybe there could be a restock ahead of that Steam machine announcement and release. It really just comes down to when exactly is that happening. Well, we may have some more news on that, since we talked about previously how some of these shipping logs were being tracked online, and it seems like more have been added here. You can see, this is over on X from Brad Lynch, showing that even more of those game console, the category for the shipments, are popping up. And there's discussion right now around, are these actually Steam machines, or is it the Steam frame, or is it the Steam Deck that's being categorized as a game console? And these were all logged with arrival dates of May 1st. So one way or the other, I mean, it lines up with the idea that they are preparing to launch hardware, obviously, whether it's the Steam machine or the Steam frame. But the Steam Deck does also need a restock. I'm looking at this thinking that Valve wants the Steam frame and the Steam machine just to get out there already. It seems that the Steam frame is affected less by the whole RAM crunch right now than the Steam machine, so maybe that's next up, but it just... I kind of feel like right now Valve is thinking we got to just get this stuff out there one way or the other when it comes to price point, because I know people will say that prices don't come down, but like historically up until this generation, prices have come down for consoles and handhelds, like all kinds of systems. So Valve could eventually lower the price if the market itself, when it comes to securing these parts, actually makes that viable. If I were them, I would work to get the Steam machine out, even if it's higher price point than they want, and then kind of reevaluate later on, because we already know that Microsoft is moving on Project Helix, and that could be, as we're assuming, hundreds of dollars more expensive than the Steam machine, but it also seems like it's going to be much more capable, so it would be kind of weird if there was less than even a year buffer between the Steam machine and Project Helix. And there's also the PS6 floating around out there, so they're threading the needle right now, and I feel like they want to get this all out and sorted sooner rather than later. So seeing these shipping logs pop up, seeing the demand for just the Steam controller, Valve knows what they're about to walk into. Even I think with, yes, an $800 Steam machine, they're going to sell through that thing very, very quick with early adopters. It's just what happens after the first few months as they roll these things out, and will that price still hold? Next up, let's talk about Sony and the PlayStation 6, as MP First went around and found all kinds of job listings in places like LinkedIn and started to piece together a lot of information around Sony's direction and some details for the development for the PlayStation 6. This we can see. And this is over on their report for PS6 early info on cloud streaming, machine learning, new horror games, all uncovered. So to start, Sony is working on developing assets for both the PS5 and the PS6. So yes, expect cross-gen titles. Go figure. I don't think anyone is shocked to hear, based on just what we saw from the PS4 to the PS5 generation, that there will be cross-gen. Yeah, that's going to happen, obviously. So how long will that cross-gen period go? Will Sony have full-on exclusives for the PS6 ready to go at launch and just say, you know what, we got to at least do something here with the PlayStation 6 system to show, in their mind, the value of the device, because it's playing games that are taking a full advantage of it. I mean, it's going to be an interesting time period for Sony to kind of work through that and figure out the strategy there and the path forward. But it does say they're partnering with a studio to develop a next-generation third-person horror shooter, and that's on Unreal Engine 5. Okay, so that's interesting. That'll be one to keep an eye on there. I know Unreal Engine comes up, people go, oh, here we go. But like, I'm curious also to see how the next generation platform of the PS6 would handle, say, Unreal Engine 5, as, well, you know, you do see if you have the right kind of hardware, yes, you can brute force your way through Unreal Engine, so maybe the PS6 can make that happen compared to current gen. And they are ramping up current cloud streaming service, so upgrading to PCIe Gen 5, which does also imply that would be the plan for the PlayStation 6. And that alone, if you consider the jump there, about 3 times as fast in general than the current SSD in the PlayStation 5. So I know the whole SSD thing, I think people have just gotten used to it from the PS4 with that mechanical hard drive, which it was, if you play certain games, you see that loading screen and the time, it took a while sometimes. You know, you go back to that generation and play it, you're like, oh yeah, wow, we did have load screens. The PS5 and the Xbox Series, and to a degree the Switch 2, have worked to eliminate most load screens, actually, or at least longer load screens. So it's good. I mean, to me, it's just good to see that they would just continue speeding that up as they go along, and also work into streaming assets in, say, in larger open world games. And then AI and machine learning, of course, they're going to be leveraging that across the board here. I just would assume right now, most studios or platform holders, whoever, are using AI to some degree, even experimental purposes, internally, and just kind of expect that. But like machine learning, of course, they're going to be leveraging that into the next generation, similar to what they're doing right now with the PS5 Pro and PSSR for real-time visuals, so you can work at a lower resolution, upscale to a higher resolution, all kinds of other, I'm sure, bells and whistles and tricks that they'll be doing to kind of clean up the image. And while it's still good to get just new information on the PlayStation 6, there wasn't anything mind-blowing necessarily here. Again, the cross-gen stuff, it's like, okay, a faster SSD? Sure, I mean, that worked out well for the PS5 so far. I'm sure they'd work to I guess, push on that for the PlayStation 6. But again, if we are expecting this thing late 27, I think we'll really see Sony talk more about the PS6. I'd say probably by GDC next year, as of course they'll also be talking to many developers, and then the word will get out anyway. So they'll do the thing where they go up on stage and the PS5 logo will turn to a PS6, so the 5 will turn to a 6, and then everyone will applaud, and that'll be the big reveal there. But yeah, they want to get past this holiday season, clearly, and then they'll talk about it, I think, like January, February, somewhere in there. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about GTA 6, which is going to be probably the biggest release in gaming history, and it's coming up quick, I guess. I mean, this whole year, we're already into May, but it's coming out at the end of November, like third week of November. And high expectations for this one. I mean, a high watermark on how many copies this thing is now expected to sell. But there was an entire interview that Jason Schreier at Bloomberg did with Strauss Zelnick, of course, their CEO at Take-Two. And like you can see some of it here, where they did talk about the lead up to GTA 6 and how Strauss Zelnick is both excited but also terrified because of those expectations. So just as an example, 10 million units sold in a first day for a game. Would you consider that incredible? I think most people would go, they sold 10 million copies in 24 hours? That is insane. But for GTA 6, they'd be like, that's it? That's all they sold? Expectations right now by analysts are sitting right around 25 million copies in the first 24 hours. And you can kind of throw away the idea of, oh, well, the install size, the PS5 or the install size of the Xbox Series is this much. How can they do that? Because the GTA 6 will legitimately shift units noticeably. So if you don't have a PS5, for example, you may buy one to play GTA 6. That's just kind of the generational release that this game represents. And he does say that development costs, they've gone up and up, right? AI influence is mentioned here, but costs have not declined from it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, is what he says. Strauss Zelnick is so weird on the AI stuff. Sometimes he's really positive on it. Other times, he just completely buries AI. So I think he does also see it more as like a tool, like a calculator, right? I think he sees it more like that as opposed to, this is going to be a living robot walking around the office, fixing things or picking up the coffee. I think he just sees it as, hey, if this can speed up QA because we can have a bunch of AI bots and like digital bots go around and try to break the game and then report back, great. That's about what I'm looking for here, right? Because it comes down to the money, the bottom line, or in this case, really the quality of this project. GTA 6 has to be like super polished for it to, I think, still come out the other side hitting anywhere near what are incredible expectations then from gamers. Now, he was asked about the PC release. Of course, people are curious on that one. He says that the console release is serving their core audience, but let's face it, there's going to be a PC release because they also want to double dip. So they're thinking, oh, even if you have PC, you'll still just buy it on the PlayStation 5 when it releases. Like, you may be saying right now, I'm not going to get on the PS5. I'll wait for the PC version. And then you see people playing it online, you go, I kind of want to play that. Or your friends are playing. You're like, well, I guess I'll go ahead and pick it up. And then it comes out on PC with mod support, and they go, I guess I'm going to buy it again. Obviously, that's the strategy. But he does mention core audience, and based on those leaked numbers that came out a couple weeks ago now, he's technically not wrong, because the PlayStation, I mean, just the console gamer in general, spends significantly more on shark cards or GTA Online than the PC gamer does. I mean, we have like actual numbers to back that up now, and it's not even like a small amount in terms of the difference. The Xbox One pulled in more money than the PC did over the last year from those recorded numbers. The Xbox One, so with that in mind, yeah, obviously they're going, well, the PlayStation, the Xbox are bringing significantly more money. Let's develop there first, get this game out, and then re-release it again on PC probably a year and a half later at most, and then just rake in a bunch of money on a second release day. It seems pretty straightforward there, but I mean, expectations are high. I'm gonna be really curious when the next big trailer drops and any other information, and of course, the pricing. Where are they gonna have GTA 6 be? Will it be a $70 game, or are they gonna test the upper limits of $80, $90, or even $100? And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, of these, which May game release are you most interested in? Okay, 007 First Light, 33%. I think I'm right there with you on that, like for the like a narrative single player game. Although, man, this is interesting because the 3 games here that I'm looking at, Lego Batman, 007 First Light, and Forza Horizon 6, I'm actually excited for each one of those. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, I'm like, well, I mean, the art style is probably the most interesting thing I think, or the visuals about that game. But man, I'm trying to think, if I had to pick between those 3, it might be 007. See, with Lego Batman, that's a game I think I can play with the kids. Although one kid really likes Forza Horizon 5, plays it all the time. I'm thinking for me personally right now, 007 First Light, but it could certainly change, as I'm sure Forza Horizon 6 is going to be awesome. And Lego Batman, from everything I've seen so far in terms of gameplay and the direction of that game, looks great too. And not a bad problem to have. Good games coming out. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Santel saying, speaking of Black Panther, where's the Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra game? Is it steering away from the year the Insomniac Wolverine is coming out? So this game was announced, it was announced November last year, in a tweet they put out, that it was going to be delayed outside of early 2026, which I would say we've now passed that completely. Here's the problem though, as you mentioned, Wolverine is September 15th, GTA 6 is November 19th, and the year is starting to fill up. I mean, if you think about it in their mind, it's like, okay, not early 2026, later on. So we'll say the second half of 2026. Well, that's getting a little crowded now, and I think it's going to get very crowded here soon. Let's say if there is a Nintendo Direct and then a Summer Game Fest, and we start seeing release dates pop up, and I don't know necessarily where it's going to, because they don't want to come out right next to Wolverine, but then they also don't want to come out right next to GTA. So maybe they can end up ahead of Wolverine in August. Can they somehow find their way into October and just split the two? I don't know. Maybe they really do just push into 2027 and try to come out in the first quarter there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear about how the Vita is still getting games in 2026. Thanks to the community. I checked that out in a video and I'll leave it right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.